guys, we are back with Messy on Purpose, and I have Tim here with me today who's going to do a little intro on himself, and then we're going to dive right in.
So thank you so much for having me on the show. I feel very privileged to be here. My name is Tim Middelbos. I'm original from the Netherlands, currently staying in Singapore due to love. And the reason why I'm on the show is actually because of an early breakup when I was 22. It kind of knocked me off my socks on my ass, let's say. And it created a very dark period for me. So I got depressed, anxious. I even got panic attacks. And at some point I hit my threshold. Like I couldn't go any further like that. I enjoyed life way too much before that I was like, okay, this is no way of living. And that's where I started my journey into the whole personal development industry. So I went to Tony Robbins, Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dispenza. And out of that came so many beautiful things. Like I got completely rid of my depression, my anxiety, my panic attacks. And after I got rid of everything, I was like, oh man, I see so much suffering around me of my family, my friends, and even strangers. Like sometimes you can see just by the look on their face, right? And that's where I thought, okay, I can give back. I mean, all the things I learned and the processes I went through, the insights I gained, it's like, I can teach people how to get rid of their depression and anxiety if they choose to. And that's where my mission started to get, especially men, because there's still a bit of a stigma when it comes to men and emotions and sharing their vulnerability, right? So I thought, yeah, this has to be broken. And that's where I started teaching men, especially men, how to at least have the tools to regulate their emotions. And that's what I want to share about this today.
Well, let's go ahead and start with kind of your journey and what led you to that
Sure.
point of teaching others, kind of what you learned. So what was the turning point let's start from the beginning. So what in the relationship went wrong?
Yeah, so let me share the story about the relationship. So I was 22 when she broke up with me. And it wasn't my first relationship, and people broke up with me before I broke up with other people before. So, I mean, a breakup in general isn't that special, but this one to me was very much. So we were together for about 2.5 years, and we had some things happening in the relationship which were pretty impactful. So when we were 6 months together, her father passed away suddenly, so he died. And she got very depressed about it. I mean, it makes sense. It's a very big loss. The whole family was in jeopardy, I think is what you call it. And I was there for her. Like, she just had to snap her fingers, and I was there for her. And I thought I was doing everything right. She had therapy. I supported her. And then when everything was going a little bit better, then her grandmother died as well, and then everything came back, so she relapsed. And again, so I felt like we had to start over. So again, she just had to snap her fingers. I was there for her. We were not living together at that time, but I was there for her. And things started to get better a little bit again. And then some point we had, in the Netherlands, we celebrate King's Day. So it's, everybody has a day off, and then we just go out and party. She didn't feel like it, but I kind of pushed her to go out with me because I felt like she has to go out at some point again. And then we went. She didn't like it, so we went back 30 minutes after we arrived, which was fine by me. I thought at least we went out. But then as we came home, she fell in the garage, and then a frying pan fell on her head. So on top of all the mental issues, she also had a chronic headache. And all this time I was thinking this is just a period, a phase that we have to go through. And of course I felt really sorry for her because there's so many bad things happening, and we could really use some good news as well. And then at some point she was going to graduate, And I thought, oh, finally we have something positive to go on. And then 2 weeks before that, she broke up with me. Me thinking I did everything right. And the sentence that literally broke me was like a punch in the gut. It was like, you remind me too much of the past. And here I was sitting and thinking I did everything right. I had a more, at least more, how do you say it? I felt like I earned more chance, let's say it like that. But she didn't give it, and then I completely lost it. I didn't do anything wrong with her, but like inside, like something broke. And I couldn't handle that. I couldn't process it. I didn't know what to do. And I was, in the beginning, very angry, very angry. And then you start to ask the why questions. You get into the why journey, like, why did this happen? Or why to me? Why did she do this? And then your brain is like an answering machine, right? So it creates answers. And before you know it, you have all answers, but none of them are good. So my answers were like, you're too fat, you're not funny enough, you're not rich enough, you're not smart enough, all those kind of things. And then the worst part is you start to believe them. And that's where your whole self-image and your whole self-perception is just shattered, like in an instant. And then you get into the dark place of depression. And especially if you don't know how to get out of it, it's a very dark place. And there's, for me at least, there was so much shame and guilt going on as well, that it's very hard to tell people what you're really going through. And yeah, the mistake I made was thinking, oh, what if there are more people thinking like her? Like my friends and my other people I would get around with. And then all of a sudden, social anxiety kicks in. And it got so bad until the point I had panic attacks. And then I got panic attacks out of nothing because I felt like I trained my body to be anxious and create panic attacks out of nothing. So even when I did groceries in the middle of the store, I would get a panic attack. I would just drop my basket with the groceries and walked outside. And then I had to calm myself down. Even when I was in the bus, sometimes I stepped out like 3 stops earlier, because in my head it was going and spinning like 100 miles an hour again, and I couldn't get myself to calm down. I just stepped out. It's like the fight, flight, or freeze reaction kicks in. And for me, it was the flight reaction, just so I could breathe.
How long?
Sure.
How long were you in this relationship before all of this happened?
So we were together about 2.5 years. We were in a relationship
Okay.
2.5 years.
So highly invested at that point, very much in
Right.
love with her, and it just literally shattered every thought you have about yourself.
Yeah, because not the main reason, but we also discussed after she graduated, we would go and live together. So that's why we were not staying together yet. But after she graduated, then we could find a place in the city, and then we would live together. So I waited for that as well. And then all of a sudden, like everything is just gone in an instant. And yeah, it's hard to deal with.
Well, and that negative self-talk that led you into like the panic attacks and like almost kind of worried about what everyone around you thought. It's crazy how we can build up so much in our head, and it's literally just noise. It's just noise. It's none of it's true. It's just noise.
That's so true. But I also think like I always consider myself a little bit of an overthinker, and I always thought it was a bad thing. But then at some point you start to realize you can direct your focus, and then thinking becomes very pleasant if you know how to direct it and how to gain the control back. But if you're not in control, then it's like, oh, it's just going everywhere. It's going very fast, and even trouble sleeping. And yeah, like you said, it's crazy how we can do that to ourselves without us wanting to. And that's
You
crazy.
don't even realize it sometimes. And I think
No.
a lot of it kind of leads into kind of how we feel about ourselves. It's like these one little things trigger us, and then maybe we haven't quite lived up to the person that we believed we were. And it kind of brings all these insecurities out, and it kind of makes everyone change a little bit differently too. Like the way you react to be different than how I react, or how, the next person reacts, or whatever. Everyone has a different reaction to it, but we all have the same cycle.
Yeah, I think that's true. And that's the thing, right? We don't learn when we grow up as kids how to regulate and talk about the emotions and how to work through hardships. Like, I think our parents do a very good job from protecting us from all of that. But then when life hits you, then all of a sudden you're on your own. And
we have to remember most parents don't even know how to do that. So how do they teach?
No, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So they do the best they can. That's something like growing up I had to realize too. Like you look back on things and you're like, well, they did the best they knew how to.
And that's the same thing with yourself as well, right? So when you get into a situation like that, you cope with it the way you think is best for you, even though it can be very destructive. But just at that time, you don't know. It's the only thing you know. So that's what you do.
So when you got to the point where you're having these panic attacks and kind of uncontrollable thoughts, where was your breaking point that you decided something needed to change?
Yeah, so at some point, I think I was 4 years in, it got a little bit better, but I got into the point like, okay, and that's very hard for me to do, I think for men in general, to come to the point that you want to ask for help because you want to figure stuff out.
You guys can't even ask for directions.
Correct. And I think it's part of being a man. I mean, and I don't mind. I mean, it gets you a long way, but sometimes you just don't know. And then there goes another period where you have to accept you don't know, and then you need help. So the same for me. I think 3 to 4 years, I struggled with the anxiety and the depression. It got a little bit better, but it didn't go the way I want to. And then I remember I was playing darts. I don't know if you know the sport. It's throwing the arrows. Yeah. And I moved to the city by myself this time, and I wanted to look a match by a friend of mine because he had to play close by. I didn't have to play, so I thought, okay, I just want to watch. It's fun, and we have a good time. And then I remember stepping out of the door, getting on my bicycle, and then halfway through, my mind was already racing at 100 miles an hour again. And I think, oh, what if they don't like me, etc. You go all these crazy thoughts again. And then at some point during that trip, I got so fed up that I saw a bench in the middle of the city. I threw my bike in the bushes and I sat on the bench, and I literally with the head in my hands thinking, how is it possible that I think all these things that I don't want to think? And how is it possible that I feel all these feelings I don't want to feel? Till this point that it's such a negative effect on your personal life. And I just broke there, and that was my rock bottom. It's like, I cannot continue this like this. Before the breakup, I was enjoying life. I was very confident. I was enjoying, with my friends a lot, partying, etc. And after that, I wanted to literally lay in bed the whole week, and it would be the best week of the year, and realizing that that's not okay, because reality will catch up on you, because I also got a little bit avoidant. Reality will catch up on you, and then you have to face it. But until you have to face it, it's like you don't want to do anything. And I realized at that point in the city, sitting on that bench, like, okay, things need to change big time, because this way I'm ruining my life.
So what was your first step? So you got to the realization that something needs to change. What did you do to figure out what it was you were going to do next?
At that point, I didn't know. I just knew that I wanted answers on those questions. Like, I literally want to know, why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this? And how, and more importantly, how do I get rid of it? Because that was the ultimate goal. The whole point, yeah, because once you know where something comes from, it doesn't mean it's solved. Um, but it's funny how once your intention change, your focus tend to change as well. So you see opportunities you didn't see before, and it's like things are aligning to get on those answers very quickly. And so I think the first step I took was reading books about it. I also tried traditional therapy, by the way. I think I got 4 or 5 sessions, but for me, it didn't work. I know it does work for some people. For me, it didn't work. So it's like 4 or 5 hours just talking an hour to someone. And I mean, I could put up a face during that hour very easy. And I felt like I was in control of the conversation the whole time
I feel the
without
same
them.
way about therapy. It doesn't work for me either.
No. And especially when they want to put you on drugs as well, like they want to have
Oh
you on
yeah.
antidepressants and stuff. So the first thing I said to myself when I got to therapy, like, I want to get to the core. I don't want to treat symptoms. I want to get to the core, which means no medication. If I can get to this point without medication, I mean, it also means I can get rid of it without it. And I also have people in my environment who are taking antidepressants, and then once they get off, they fall back into the old ways and old cycles. And it's like, okay, I don't want that.
Well, it's
Um,
just like dieting, right? If you don't learn how to
correct.
diet and you lose weight with Ozempic, you never learned a habit. It's the same thing. We have to learn how to manage
Yeah,
how we feel and be in more control of ourselves. And if you supplement it with drugs, you don't learn those habits.
true. And I like I don't know if it's an old saying or not, but someone once said, like, if you can't be confident as a fat person, you also cannot be confident as a thin person because it's a habit. There's patterns
100%.
in your thinking that create the confidence. And so if you think you need to lose weight in this case, then you will be confident. Then it's wrong because actually it's funny because I lost 15 kgs over the past 4 months. I did learn the dieting thing. And I kind of have control over my thoughts and things. But it's funny because once I got skinny, one of the first things that came to mind is like, oh, you're very skinny. Which I thought, okay, now I have to gain muscle. So when you're in that mindset, that's what I want to say. There's always that next thing that will show up that's not good enough, right? So,
People don't like they don't understand it until they hit that first goal, but you're always making new goals. It doesn't matter what it is in life. Like I constantly want to grow in some way, shape, or form, whether that's in my fitness, whether that's in, the mental state, whatever it is, my career, everything has a goal. And then when I hit that goal, there's a new goal.
yeah. But one of the main things I learned over the years in the personal development thing is I celebrate every small step on the way because that's how you gain momentum. That's how you keep the momentum. That's how you be proud of yourself on the journey without asking for recognition to other people. Um, so I celebrate every time I stepped on the weight scale in this case, where I released. I don't like the word lost because that means I want to be found again. That's not. I believe that the power of words is also important. But I celebrated every gram I lost, and that the way you keep the momentum as well. It's like it's really good.
You have to appreciate the journey. It's not just the
Correct.
goal, right? Once we hit the goal, it's not even really that exciting, right? It's the little things along the way that like build up that momentum.
Yeah, and also I do have to realize so many people, and I was in the beginning like that as well. We aim for perfection, but in many ways it paralyzes as well because if it's not perfect, then we're going to avoid it. And for me,
Well, it's an
perfection,
excuse too.
yeah,
Perfection is something that people use fear based. So your fear of succeeding. So you make up this big idea of what it perfect is before you can even start because it's impossible to hit, and now you don't have to face your fear.
you never reach it. You're completely right. That's why I think it's actually one of the lowest standards there is, because perfection doesn't exist. So if that's your standard, it's actually very low. I always say progress over perfection anytime, because progress is the game.
So what were so we talked about kind of, you know, obviously the therapy and stuff like that, but what was it that really hit? What was something that you would recommend time and time again because it was just something that you did that just really flipped the switch? A book you read, a person you listened to, you know, something along those lines.
I will share my story, but I do want to say upfront, this is in no way advice to anyone who's listening. Because in hindsight, it was very risky. So what I eventually did is I read the books, but it's all, for me, it's nice information, but I didn't act on it. And that's for me, when I read, it's like, oh, it's very nice. And yeah, there's truth in this. And then you read it and then you just put it on the side or you stop halfway. And then it becomes shelf help, right? You know the expression. So actually I was looking to something very immersive. And then at some day I was watching a movie on Netflix and I was doing the laundry. And then all of a sudden it plays the trailer of the next movies. And then to me, the trailer of Tony Robbins plays of his documentary, I Am Not Your Guru. And it talks about this kid who was suicidal with the red shoes, and he gets him out of the suicidal state just in 5 minutes in that small trailer. And I was hooked. And I didn't even watch. I just listened to it from the washing machine. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this. I'm hooked and let's see what happens. And then the first time I watched, I just cried for the whole 2 hours because it hit me that finally somebody was speaking to me and understood me. I felt that way. Well, just watching television, which is an amazing thing to do. I think Tony has a great way of capturing people with their stories and his appearance in the first place. And then I think I watched it over 50 times because it gave me strength and inspiration. And here's the thing I don't recommend. At some point, I got this thought, like, what if you go there? And it was so strong, but I didn't have the money. I was living in the Netherlands, and I was never outside of Europe, let alone America. And back then it was pre-COVID, so it was all in person. But then the thought was so strong, like 2.5 months in, the thought was still there, so strong. And I thought, okay, maybe I act on it. So I asked my bank for a loan, with the intention that if they just say no, then I can get it out of my head and then I can move on. But then, of course, they said yes. And then
It was meant to be.
well, yeah, I also saw it as a sign, like, okay, if they say no, I can get it out of my head. If they say yes, then I kind of have to go now. But I didn't tell anybody because I knew once I talked about it with someone, then it would talk me out of it, and I didn't want that. So I booked the ticket, I booked the plane ticket, I booked the hotel, and I was sitting there on the table, I was like, oh my gosh, what have you done? And at the same time, I thought, oh, that Tony Robbins guy better deliver because otherwise I will be very pissed. And and then I went there, and then I told my friends and my colleagues and my parents, and the most reaction I got actually felt very weird. It's like, oh, you're not suicidal, right? It's not your last resort. I was kind of shocked. Yeah, I was kind of shocked by that reaction as well because I didn't feel like it. For me, it felt like a chance to get back on my feet the way I want. And I got that. Also got in a fight with my mom because she didn't agree with me taking the loan and stuff, which I kind of understand. I mean, it's a big step. But that's what I did. So then I went to his Date with Destiny, and it's crazy. I don't know if you've ever been to something like that, but it was 6 days of 14 to 16 hours. You just spend time on yourself. And it was such an amazing experience. And that's where I left my depression. It never came back. I'm like 7 years further now. Anxiety dropped immensely, and more importantly, I got the tools, insights, and knowledge to catch it on time, so that the panic attack will not get really a panic attack, but you get before it, so you can how do you say, manage it before it actually happens, and then over time it just disappears. And that's what I did. And actually, that was my first ever seminar, and it was that one. I remember hearing Tony say before the event started, he asked the audience, for who was this the first time? And so I put on my hand, and then he said, so you decided to dive into the deep immediately, huh? Because he has his unleash the power within. That's his kindergarten, he says. And then the next step is date with destiny. And I thought, okay, I'm in for an experience, apparently. And well, it was an experience.
So what kind of things did you work on in this like 6-day workshop? Like what did they have you do?
Oh, it's so broad. I tell you the main thing I got from it. So you get a lot of tools. So for example, I would just give you, it's okay. For example, how you create your state. Is this something he says is the triad? So imagine drawing a triad, and on the left side you have focus. So it's part of what creates your state is what you focus on. And you should be asking yourself questions like, am I focusing on the things that are present in my life or the things that are missing in my life? Do I focus on the things that I have control over, or do I focus on the things that I don't have control over? Do I focus on the past, the present, or the future? Because the difference is, let's say you focus on the past, on the things you cannot control, and the things that are missing, you already set yourself up for depression, right? Because you're only focusing on the bad stuff that are outside of your control. But if you're focused on the things that are present in your life, that you have control over, and in the present, then you are in control of your mindset, your focus, and your life. So it's already way better than focusing on the other stuff. But I think we learn over time, especially also when we watch the news and stuff, that the news feeds us things that we cannot control, and it's all bad. So we feel bad, and we cannot do anything about it. So we feel bad. It's like, I don't watch the news anymore, by the way. I think it's a waste.
I don't think I've ever really watched it.
No. And don't do it, because your mental state will cost you.
I see through why they show what they show. You know what I mean? So like they'll show something, I'm like, oh, they're just trying to get you scared for this reason. So it's like, it just never made sense for me to watch it.
And it's so true. And once you get it, you cannot unsee it anymore.
That's fear mongering.
Yeah. So that's the left side.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. So that's the left side of the triad. Then you go to the right side. Then we talk about meaning. Like, what meaning do you give to your events? And you can think of it like this. So am I seeing this as a punishment for not being good enough at something? Or do I see it as a challenge for me to become better? Or do I see it as a opportunity or a gift for growth? When you go through all these three, when you see things as a punishment, it's way different than when you see it as a challenge. Like, okay, I'm in this situation. I challenge myself to get out of this. Like, who do I have to become in order to overcome this? That kind of questions. Or do you see it as a gift or as an opportunity for growth? Because then all problems disappear, because then you only have opportunities for growth. But if you're not there yet, then see it as a challenge. I don't think people get into situations because they cannot handle it, because I think they get into situations because it forces them to grow. But if you play the victim, then you will stay there. And then the bottom line is your physiology. We just talked about weight loss a little bit, right? So we all know this, and I was one of them, to be fair, that were thinking like, okay, so tomorrow I will start. And then when you think that, you're laying on the couch with your bag of crisps, no energy whatsoever. And then you tell yourself, tomorrow I'm going to start. Well, and then tomorrow will become tomorrow again, and then tomorrow again. And before you know it, it's 3 years in and you still haven't started. So the way you use your body is also very important, because if you lay like that, and even you can see it when people are depressed, for example, they have shallow breathing, their shoulders are hanging forward, their head hangs a little bit. But if you stand like a champion, like you have your chest up, your head up, and then your hands in your side, for example, it's very hard to think very bad thoughts. So those three things combined, when you use it the right way, you will feel amazing. But if you use it the wrong way, you'll feel crap. And that's one of the things that you learn during that date with destiny, in this case, where you can get your control back over your state, because now you have a choice. So you can pick a state you want. For example, I want to feel confidence. You put it in the middle, and then you go through the focus, meaning, and physiology, like what goes with confidence. What do I need to focus on when I want confidence? What meaning do I need to give when I want confidence? How do I use my body? And once you gain control of that, once you have this knowledge, now you have a choice. Because I'm not saying feeling bad or feeling depressed is bad all the time. It's just like you want to not be that your dominant state.
So after you got through all of this, you felt like a different person, or was there more work to be done before? Like, how long did you stay in the United States? Did you like it here? Like, did you enjoy anything other than this journey?
Well, I felt reborn, to be honest. So it's kind of like, felt like, the snakes who shed their skin. It's like, I felt like all the bad stuff I left there, like in America, it's probably still there. And it was such a nice feeling, because you get also a community, and that was the most mind-blowing thing to me. You got into the room with over 5,000 people from 78 different countries, and at the end, although it's impossible to speak everyone, but you gain connections. It really gives you a sense of a community as well, and having some sort of a family/community where you can fall back on when you slip back, for example. It's amazing.
You still have people that you talk to from that group?
Not anymore, but I still am in the group chats, and they're very active, and I'm sure if I reach out, they will help, because it's just the way those people are, And unfortunately, I didn't spend any more time in America, because I was still on a budget. I mean, I was alone and still expensive.
That is crazy.
Yeah. But I would do it again in hindsight. But in hindsight, it's very easy. At that time, I was very anxious about it as well, because if he doesn't deliver, then it's such a crazy thing. But it also taught me that this time I chose me. And sometimes we forget to choose us, to choose yourself. And choosing me was something I wanted to do, and also working out the way it did kind of made me trust my intuition more as well, because I cannot forget the thought that was in my head for so long, for 2.5 months. It took 2.5 months to act on it. But I guess that's what they call intuition, because your God knows, okay, this will be good for you, and just go ahead with it. And then the hard part is, once that event is over, in this case, Date with Destiny, now you get back into your old environment with your old friends, your colleagues, etc., etc., etc. And now you have to be bigger than your environment, because they want to drag you down back into it again, because that's where they feel comfortable. Because if they have to meet you where you are now, then it means they have to level up as well, and not everybody wants that. And I also get to realize that, and I guess it's okay too, because I don't think everyone is meant to be in every period of your life. Some stay with you your whole life, some just stay for a season, and that's okay. Uh,
So when you shifted your mindset and you kind of fixed the issues that you were having, you found that you kind of lost some people and then kind of gained a new circle, or how did that work out for you?
yeah, absolutely. And I don't say it as a bad thing, but
No, it's not a bad
um,
thing at all. I've done it many times.
yeah, it kind of feels like natural selection or something.
Yeah.
But
I
I
don't
mean,
think
you're in.
everyone, right? So like there's people that it's not that you don't like somebody. It's just, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it doesn't vibe, it doesn't vibe. There's some people that are going to like you for who you are and want to be around you. And there's some people that just aren't going to like you and don't want to be around you, and vice versa. And that's a very natural thing.
Yeah, but saying that, it's actually nice you brought this to my attention. It's for me, for a very long time, I kind of was a pleaser. So you act and behave in a way that you want other people to like you. And so for me, it was pretty hard in the beginning that, oh, how do I maintain this new version of me while also maintaining my old friends? And it didn't work. And it's okay. I had to learn it the hard way because I had to realize, okay, I'm not a pleaser anymore. I'm a giver. And I think the difference between a pleaser and a giver is that a giver just gives because it's who they are. And a pleaser wants, it gives you something because they want something in return in the form of recognition or something, because then they can feel good about themselves. But a giver, it just feels good about giving, just it's because the way they are. And once I made that distinction, then everything became way easier. And then, yeah, some people drifted off. I gained new friends because also your interests change and you show up at different places. Because I did tons of seminars after that. I love being in that environment, love meeting those growth-minded people as well. At the same time, it also made me realize that not everybody wants to change, and that's okay. But also, a lot of people are suffering in silence without knowing that there's this whole personal development thing, and they all think it's a kind of a woo-woo thing where you meditate in the mountains or something. And such a it's such a narrow way of thinking. Um, and until you experience it yourself, then you know what it really is like. I love coaching. I love being coached as well because new perspectives. I love new perspectives, new ideas. I'm open to everything. And then
Are
you
you
just,
still working with a coach? Are you of some sort?
I'm not doing a one-on-one coaching, but I have tons of people in my network right now that if I have a question or if I need help with something, I can reach out to so many people, mentoring and stuff like that. So yeah, I did have a lot of mentors, by the way, but it's most of the time it's the group coaching. I like that as well. Um, yeah. But at some point, it's also like, okay, now I have to dive in myself. Now I have to make my hands dirty. And then once I had a roadblock again, instead of sitting with it for years like I did in the past, now I know when I need help and then just ask for help.
So how did this transition into you becoming a coach? So I can kind of relate into like, so fitness is and health is just huge for me. I love it. I love going to the gym. I love everything about it, and I love helping people. So that led me into doing that type of coaching. Is that kind of what happened for you, or how did you lead into being a coach?
Oh yeah, definitely. So when I left the date with Destiny and I felt like a different kind of person, the funny thing about that is my job at that time, I worked in the back office, like I did administration job at a mental health care facility in the Netherlands. So I work with psychologists, psychiatrists, and people like that. And then you also get an insight of how they do the treatment with other people. And that's where I thought, man, this Tony Robbins guy, he kind of, don't want to say use the word fixed, but he kind of got me to this place where I want to be in 6 days. And we had patients that were there for 3 years and some maybe longer. So I was like, I want to know what this Tony Robbins guy does. And he has his own coaching program. And that's where I decided, okay, I want to bring his teachings and the things that I learned and that I got a real benefit from. I want to learn that as well. So I bought his course, and I've been doing the live coaching with his content as well. And I tried to be the coach that I needed when I was in my dark place. So that's why I love to reach out to men from that age as well, like 25 to 40. I think it's very crucial that you don't bury your emotions, because they will come back at you in some way or form. And that's where I decided, okay, there's so much work being done. It needs to be done here. And I want to be a part of that movement.
What are some of the things that you, when you do like a consultation to kind of see where somebody is, what kind of things do you ask? What kind of things do you try to get out of them to understand and kind of direct the type of coaching?
Well, first of all, I always want to know the story, like the background story, like why are they feeling the way they feel? Because I also realize that sometimes having someone there to just listen to you can be enough already. And I think especially, maybe especially for men, based on my experience, they share, but it's not really a safe space, because men kind of joke around with it and they use it against them. And to men, that's not done. You do it once, then they will share never again. So having a place where you can share, and just having somebody sitting there listening to your story is already, I think, therapy. And then going from there, it's like, okay.
Well, before you go further, with that, so how do you build that rapport to get men to open up? Women typically we just talk, right? It just comes out. Probably not in the right ways most of the time. But for men to get men to be more vulnerable and tell you the story and open up to you, what do you do to build that rapport?
Well, I mean, most of the time when they reach me, they're already open to share. And throughout, even with me doing darts, like a lot of the views around it with lots of alcohol, partying and stuff like that, it's all true, in my opinion. And a lot of people, I tend to draw people towards me who want to share their life story. And the funny thing is, I'm gladly the one to be listening. I mean, I don't care. And I love getting to know the background of people, because everyone is unique. Everyone has their own story. And it always amazes me that no one is the same. So yeah, I think I kind of have that naturally, that people open up to me. And also I think I'm a great listener. So when people start talking, I'm just sitting there and I don't interrupt. It's like, oh yeah, I remember when I had this it's about them. Like so many times when people are talking or opening up, at some point someone else will take over. And I think you just need to sit there, shut your mouth and listen, and then ask the right questions when it comes up. And that's the funny thing, when people share their story, there's almost never a question in there. So that's the first thing I ask. And then, okay, after the story, like, okay, then and what's the question? What do you want to do with this, or where do you want to go? And I think that's the important part, because if you look at your current situation and you're not happy, then you have to change it, but you have to also know where you want to go, and that can be a feeling as well. For some, it can be huge to be a part of the day, not feel depressed, but feel something different. And if that's where you want to go, then we go for that. But it can also be like, okay, I want to get rid of my depression, which is also fine. But you have to know where you want to go, or how you want to feel, how you want to act, who you want to become in the process. Because that way you have a new goal to work towards. Because here's the thing. So when you look at your own situation, I made this mistake as well. And then until someone said, oh no, I will save that for the end. So when you look at your current situation, and as I did when I was depressed because of the breakup, right? So you look at your current situation And that situation creates some thoughts. And for me, I got into the why tyranny, and I felt I was not good enough in every way, shape, or form at some point. And those thoughts create emotions. So you feel bad, you feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel all the, as we label as negative emotions. And those emotions create your actions. So for me, I wanted to hide. I wanted to lay on the bed all day. Actually, I didn't want to deal with any people at some point as well. I was kind of hibernating. So those emotions create your actions. But then you're in this circle of your current situation, create your thoughts, create your emotions, create your actions. And now you're in this cycle where you're stuck. And then I remember someone saying, did you know you can change your situation? It was like a light bulb moment. And it's such stupid, easy advice. But until someone points you that you can change it, you feel stuck because you don't see it. And I think that's what coaching is as well. Like, you look at your left and you're looking for the solution at your left because that's where you've been looking all this time. And then there comes a coach along, or someone, or a friend, or a therapy, whatever. I said, what if you look over here on the right side? And then you look at it and like a whole new world opens up. And I think that's what coaching is. Like, you listen, you ask questions, and you let them get to the point there where you want them to go. It's not you explaining them, you should do this because this worked for me. No, you should ask them the right questions so they will get there on their own with their own insights because it's their own journey. Because I think once your mind is expanded with some insights or something, it will never grow back. And that way you always have a choice if you want to go back or you want to stay in the same place. So once you have realized what your new situation is, where you want to go, now we can look like, okay, how do you want to, what do you need to think if you want to reach this situation? How do you want to feel? And what actions do you have to take to reach this? So now you get into this new cycle, new loop that's way more beneficial for you. And that's different for everyone. But that's basically the process, what I'm doing.
It does vary person to person. It's so hard to explain how to coach because every situation is going to be different.
Yeah. And one of the things, and it's one of my favorite exercises, I do it everyone, literally everyone. And I love this because this actually also changed everything about my depression when I did it at the Tony Robbins event. It draws out your programming. So from when we were a child to where we are now, we adapt certain beliefs, certain values, certain rules where we think we have to live by. And once we reach this, then we will be happy. So it's like asking questions, what's most important in your life? What else is more important in your life? And then you have a list of values. Then you have to put them in order. And then we ask the questions. For me, for example, I remember very vividly that certainty, which is similar to safety and control and stuff like that. That was my number one. I need to feel certain about everything, which means then you ask the questions, okay, what does it take for me to feel certain? And then you get these rules, then you get these answers like, I have to know upfront, I need to know upfront what I can expect, which is impossible because I'm not a psychic. So already I get confronted with my most important one, which is not met. So every day you get confronted with the things that aren't being met. So you're already behind. Then also the second part of that is, what emotions would you do? Everything, how do you phrase this in English? So what are the emotions you will do almost anything about to avoid? So do you have values and rules where you want to go to? When these are met, then I will be happy. And then there are emotions you want to avoid. Because when you feel that one, then you feel bad. And what I realized, I got my rules switched the wrong way, because for me, when I saw it on paper, I actually had to laugh because I made myself so easy to feel bad and I made myself so hard to feel good that it's impossible. Anyone with those values and rules would be depressed and anxious because it's impossible to reach. And what I've learned based on my experience with other people is it's very common that people, it's almost impossible to feel happy, and it's very easy to feel crap. And once you have that on paper, you realize like, oh, okay, this is my programming. This is, and I'm not saying it's you, it's just the way you programmed yourself. It's not even the way you might perceive yourself. That's the funny thing. And once I wrote it down, I didn't have a clue these were my rules. Because I might be talking now and someone's listening. Yeah, I know what I value. No, you don't. You don't know your values and rules, I promise. And once you see it on paper, then you get hit with it in the face. It's like a mirror, like, okay, oh, so this is how I've been doing. And now you have to face it. And now you have a choice. Like if you want to go ahead in the future, do I want to keep this like this, or do I need to change some things? For example, for me, health was not even on there, which is crazy, because even if it's not number one, at least it needs to be on there. And until someone points it out, you don't know. And the funny thing about the emotions that I wanted to avoid, I had love on the side that I value really. I think it was number 5 or something. But I also had it on my list that I avoid. Well, how is that going to work? It doesn't. So it gains you so much clarity on how you operate at this point, and it points out so many things that are in conflict with each other that it gains an amazing kind of clarity. And that's often that's always also the starting point. So I let people tell their story, where do you want to go, and then that's the first thing we dive into, because I want to know what you're operating on. Because once that's clear, now we can have a starting point to work with where we want to go.
So, since love was on both sides, where is it at now?
It's a good question. I like that. Actually, in December, because Date with Destiny is in December. I always do this one exercise in December, but I haven't done it this time yet. So I know I have health at number 1, because I feel like you need energy and you need to be in good shape in order if you want to serve. So that's for sure number 1. And I think love is at number 2, because for me, I'm in a very healthy, very good relationship now. I'm very happy with her. And it's nice to have after being in such a devastating breakup. And if you know, if it's a healthy relationship, it can bring you so much. It will forces you to look at things in a way you haven't thought of. And it also forces you, well, force is maybe a bit of a strong word, but you have to look at yourself in a way like, am I a good partner instead of am I a good person? What do I want to get out of the relationship with her? And yeah, it's definitely a number 2, and I'm not trying to avoid it anymore. Because back then, I was so afraid of being hurt. That's also a funny thing. So we ask ourselves questions, right? And then I think questions direct our focus. And we did an exercise where they want you to dive into yourself and then ask yourself, what is the primary question? What is the question you ask yourself the most? What is the question, whether you ask it consciously or unconsciously, that you ask yourself the most? And when we got through that exercise, mine was, how do I prevent myself from getting hurt? And that was why love was also on the avoidance side, because I knew how it hurt me the last time, and I didn't want to go through that again whatsoever. But then I also love this saying, like, if you don't heal the cuts that hurt you, you will bleed on the people that didn't cut you. So if you're not healed the things that hurt you, then people that don't deserve it will get the results of that. So, yeah.
So, now that you're not avoiding love, you are now in another relationship. How long have you been in this relationship?
for about 2 years now as well.
Okay. So, and you guys moved in together.
Correct.
So you're already a step ahead of the last one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What feels so different? So, the woman you're with now, is she, like, does she have less of that, like, a lot of trauma and things going on and not dealing with things correctly? Is she a little bit more like level-headed with her emotions, or what is so different between this relationship and your last one?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I think I shared I was 22 at the time when we broke up, which is very young.
There you go.
And she was even younger. So you grow up. And for me, looking back, I mean, men can be childish, childlike. I don't know what the right word is, but they're young, their mind. And I think that's a good thing. And I don't want to get rid of that in any way, shape, or form. But you don't want them to be immature or childlike, like the partner becomes the mother that way. You don't want that. So it's a bit of both. So I mean, I grew immensely as a person as well. I confronted myself. I did the inner work to become the person I'm today, and I'm proud of that. And she has done the same thing. So we both fought our inner demons, and then at some point it just clicked, and we got together, and we both have this mindset. She's very feminine. She's not masculine at all. Well, at least not with me. I heard or in the workspace. Sometimes it's different, but she works a lot with men, so I think it's kind of it's okay. But yeah, I think that's the main difference. I think it may be the right summary as we grew up.
I honestly, that one thing I've came to the conclusion of is, like, everything really does kind of happen for a reason. I feel like we get thrown these little hardships that, like, sink us for a little bit because we need to be pushed in a different direction. It's just whether or not you're open to new opportunities, or you stay dwelling in this, like, this little bad thing that happened in the road.
Yeah, it's so true. And this might sound weird, but sometimes you wish that some people will get a little bit worse than they are now, because then they have to take action. I always see it like on a scale of 1 to 100, like 30, between 30 and 70 is comfortable. And then above 70, you live a great life. And below 30, you need to change. But so many people live around, let's say, 35 to 40, which they're not enjoying life at all, but it's not bad enough to change. So for some people, correct. And then, then they just suck it up the way it is. Well, and it doesn't need to be. So yeah, sometimes for some people you wish to get a little bit worse, so they would take action, and then it can be, and like it did for me, be some kind of a catapult to shoot you up way more on the scale than just that 35. But yeah, it's true.
Are you at the point now where you're kind of, I'd almost like get addicted to self-growth? Like you always want to just constantly be moving forward.
I definitely had that phase, and I love going to those places as well. But I'm also starting to get addicted to giving back now. So it's not just the self-growth, although there's a lot of growth in that journey as well. But it's also about getting people with me on the same journey, getting people to master their emotions, master their state, so they will have a choice whether or not they want to be depressed or not. Because here's the thing, it took me quite a while to get rid of my depression and take the decision, because at some point I also liked being depressed, and there was a secondary gain to it. Like, I used my story to get connection with people. And I think one of the basic human needs is a form of love and connection. And if I tell this story, like, no one who's an asshole would say, grow a pair, but everyone say, I feel sorry for me. And so I use this story to gain connections and create bonds with people. But in order to keep doing that, I had to stay depressed, because otherwise I had to own up. And enjoy life. And that's also a thing. Like, in order to be happy, you have to eliminate everything that makes you happy. And well, once you do that, then it's very easy to stay depressed. But at some point, you also think, yeah, this is not it.
It's a 50-50 whether somebody stays there or they get out of it.
And that's their own choice, because it can meet some of your needs.
That was really great. I think it flowed very well, and you told a great story. All right, guys, until next time, bye.